Kitagawa is the best walking meme in Persona 5 Royal, and super silly and fun, and literally look at him. I love him. Wait, hold on. That's not what this video is truly about now, is it? Well, at first glance, you can't really tell what Yusuke's deal is. He's meant to be pretty, sure, arguably, but stoic and serious. But then he is so serious that it's funny. The game's best moments of levity more often than not involve him.
Chiragi is your senpai.
She attended Kosei High?
No, everyone's senpai but yours.
But he also gets his rowdy friends back on track and is straight to the point where it matters, which makes the audience gravitate towards him more. Like, we can't always have a Ryuji moment.
For real?
Though they are appreciated. We do have to have our Morgana, Makoto, and even Joker and Yusuke moment, the serious ones.
Yes! So good!
It's easy then to write him off once his story arc is over. He's an extremely low-key character, eager to just let the others do the flashy stuff. But should you pursue his confidant, the Emperor Arcana, further, something sticks out. Especially if you're an artist, and even more specifically, one who has been wronged by a person. And we'll be taking a look into this very social link. This analysis has a few components: the cause, the plot, and the resolution of the confidant's storyline. It is different from other analysis as this one looks at it specifically from artist's lens, which I am. An artist just says Yusuke is. Basically, I will be projecting onto Yusuke because that's one of the only ways I know how to engage meaningfully with media, but you'll get the point if you're an artist. And believe me, you're an artist. Like, art is so many things. Art is literally human. You get what I mean later on, but if you create music, if you create like TikToks or like edit videos, maybe write, that's all art to me, baby. You are an artist. The following topics to be discussed may turn abstract in concept, but that's just what happens when discussing the philosophy of art. There are only things an artist, a visual artist, probably would understand fully. Now, part 1. To keep it simple, Yusuke Kitagawa represents the very real, yet rarely talked about phenomenon that art block can be caused by a person rather than a mental block. And you know, for a game that repeatedly talks so much about cognitions and mental stuff, this stands out significantly. Think about it. The game constantly makes a point to show that how one perceives things in their head affects the outside world, but rarely is it the other way around, how a person maybe can affect the inside. Arguably, what Madarame did to Yusuke took a toll on his mentality, which led to his block. But what we must understand that's only the surface conclusion. When someone is betrayed by the one they admired, it leads to deep emotional scarring, one which I believe Yusuke, stoic and calm as he is, suffered deeply from, that he does not come to terms with initially.
Art truly is a massive explosion!
He gets hurt, but he doesn't want to admit it at first. Yusuke's whole thing is denial. You see how vehemently he denied Joker and the others trying to convince him that his father, his sensei, was literally abusing him. He knew. He just didn't want to admit it. And as the scene for initiating the social link plays out, Yusuke was still filled with resentment toward Madarame at the time, though he did not voice it. The confidant being unlocked only after the second palace, he comes pleading to Joker to free him from his grief somehow, to get him out of his slump, as he believes it to be hindering his art and pursuit of beauty, of achieving the levels of the Sayuri. What all of this desperation tells us is, instead of emotional scarring, he was straight up an open wound at that moment. He himself cites a mental block for the cause of his art not turning out as he wanted, but knows his severance of ties with Madarame to be a catalyst. That Madarame somehow corrupted his heart to be impure. He can no longer function as an artist without thoughts of his former master creeping up. And who can blame him? Madarame, after giving him a taste of affection, is all Yusuke's ever known. Should the players choose to seek him out at the underground walkway, however, can Yusuke truly have a friend to confide in? Part 2. Themes. Initially, it looks like Yusuke is a perfectionist when it comes to his art. That he's being too hard on himself. But truthfully, these two things come from most artists, inherently. On top of being a scholar student and having no money to his name, how is an orphan to navigate his life as an artist? We see in his confidant that Yusuke truly despises nothing more than capitalism in art. Money concerns are often one artists grapple with from time to time, as much as we hate the stereotype of starving art student. One wrong move, and it can unfortunately be true. It is also one of the many reasons why people go into a slump, because all that stress does show up in our artworks. Yet we are all too aware that if we do not draw, then we do not live. A vicious Sisyphean cycle. I believe Madarame became as corrupt as he is because of money concerns too, as the reason he turned to plagiarism and all the corrupt money laundering BS was because he's past his prime as an artist. A prolonged art block. Though we can take his words at face value since he was probably reaching, desperate. But some truth does echo in his words. Doesn't justify all his actions though. Nowadays, especially with the rise of AI art and such, the odds are ever stacked against art that it never becomes about true expression anymore. And yet, our gallant and elegant Yusuke still seeks that true expression, despite the odds. Rejecting a benefactor's offer for him to have a stable life, for what? For him to be true to his ideals as an artist, and by extension, as a person. Because to Yusuke, being bogged down by money means there's nothing different between him and Madarame. And so, we see that mementos and all the other escapades are meant to represent how humanity is in art. Art is in humanity. Yusuke goes directly against the art rule of painting what he sees, not what he knows. But he also ends up combining the two to create something wonderful. His work titled Hope and Desire. Art is also an inherently lonely pursuit. An artist thrives when alone, but when alone, how can we create experiences to paint? It's an awful contradiction, but one tied to art nonetheless. Art is often a lonely endeavor. At the end, the benefactor ends up telling Yusuke his former sensei was fond of him, deep down. It's hard not to see why. The fact understandably devastates him somewhat. There's a myriad of emotions to unravel there, especially if we're someone alone in the world and relied on that person for so long. But Yusuke, orphan boy with a paintbrush, is not alone, as he's found a friend and a solid confidant in us, the player, and the Phantom Thieves. Part 3. Conclusion. The reason why I made this video is because experiencing the anguish Yusuke expressed pre-Social Link, when I actually got to play Royal, was like looking at a mirror. The desperation he expressed. Being an artist who can't create art, or rather, can't create art how we envision it. I had an art block. For months, nearly a year. I could still create art for work. I still took commissions and drew on the side, but it was just that. Work. To Yusuke, it was just that. School work. Like Yusuke, it was also caused by a person. No matter how far I ran from places, people, memories, it weighed on my soul. And what is art if not a representation of the artist's soul, as Yusuke says? I felt everything I regurgitated merely a reflection of pain and betrayal. But also like Yusuke, for all the pain and betrayal, there was no hating that person fully. To believe in the humanity of that person. Art is the most human thing we can do. and to reconcile with humanity of the inevitable truth that there is pain and suffering in this life, but also the persisting fact that there is countless good and beauty found in it, means that we've understood, in essence, what it means to be an artist. That there is hope, the good amidst suffering, mixed with desire, the root cause of suffering. And isn't that the whole point that Persona 5 Royal was trying to make? That there is hope in suffering. It is human. If a perfect reality like that man concocted was the answer, a world where no one suffers, what difference was there from us living as robots? Like Yusuke, there is that annoying yet somewhat relieving truth that I can't hate the person who wronged me. That there was something almost like affection, but more importantly, humanity. There were the dualities. Yusuke's confidant snapped me out of my own slump, basically. He made me realize that there is hope. Because if Yusuke Kitagawa can move on from a toxic relationship with his foster father to create art furthering his goals of attaining true beauty, then I can move on from the person who wronged me as well. And share my art too. However ugly and scuffed and however long it takes, this is my chosen path, and it starts with this video about struggle. Creating art, the most human thing to do, starts with a desire to create it. And hope that it'll all turn out well. Thank you for watching.
Now, Yusuke, we can talk all you want, so be a good boy and come along.